all know the typical stereotype of an evil stepmom, right? Well, I wish that's what my stepmom had been like. Instead, she was in love with me, and not a mom and daughter way, but in an insane way. You won't believe it. I'm Francine, and I'm 18 now, but I want to start from the beginning because it's just insane. It all started when my parents and I had a horrible car accident when I was 6 years old. Some jerk was texting on his phone and not paying attention, and the next moment, we were all flung from the car. Luckily, me and my dad were okay, but my mom wasn't. She died right in front of my eyes, and it was seriously the most devastating moment of my life. Even now, just telling you all, it's bringing me close to tears. Dad quit his job after that, and even after 3 months, he was still completely heartbroken. He didn't even leave the house. At one point, I couldn't bear to see my dad so sad. I thought maybe if he met someone new, he'd be happy. And even though I was still so young at the time, I knew my mom would want my dad to have a chance at happiness again. So, I suggested it to him, and he was hesitant at first, but then he agreed. My Aunt Rebecca looked after me while my dad went out on a date. I thought he'd only be gone like 1 hour, but he only came back 4 days later. When I heard his car pull up, I ran outside to hug him. I'd missed him so much, but then I noticed there was someone behind him. "Francine, I'd like you to meet Stephanie," he said. "She's going to be your new mom." She looked so friendly and reminded me of a mermaid with long red hair. I was happy for my dad. Stephanie came up to me and hugged me, and I felt kind of shy. But then she said, "Your dad has told me so much about you." And then I felt better. And she told me how she was from Ireland but had moved to Seattle, and now she'd found love and couldn't wait to live with us. Everything happened quite quickly after that. They got married, and the wedding was amazing. I got to wear the prettiest dress, and it was so much fun. But all through the wedding, Stephanie kept staring at me. It wasn't creepy or anything, just a bit weird. Shouldn't she have been staring at my dad? Anyway, I soon forgot about it, and life went on. My dad worked in a big bank, so he was always busy. Stephanie was the one taking care of me, and we had so much fun together. She loved to give me makeovers, painting my nails, and playing with my hair. And she even bought me lots of toys. Honestly, I was so happy. Stephanie was the best stepmom I ever could have asked for. I imagined my mom smiling down at me and being happy that I was so happy. Little did I know how things would change the minute I turned 18. It's not that she suddenly turned evil. Actually, it was the opposite. Whenever I go to school, she kept kissing my cheeks 7 times. I thought it was kind of normal, so I ignored it. But once, when school was over, I was about to ride the bus until Stephanie showed up. She ran up to me and hugged me very tightly. I could barely breathe. It was kinda embarrassing because my friends were all there. My face was literally buried in her chest. I didn't understand why she was being so clingy all of a sudden, but this needed to stop. Then one Saturday, I invited my boyfriend Harold over. My dad and Stephanie were out, so we'd have the house to ourselves. It was great. We were making out on the sofa, and then I quickly went to get us some snacks. I was reaching into the fridge to get something when I felt someone touch my ass. I started laughing and said, "Harold, I've only been gone like a second. Am I that irresistible?" But when I turned around, it wasn't Harold. It was Stephanie. "What the heck do you think you're doing?" I shouted at her. She went quiet for a second, and then she told me something that would turn my life upside down. "Francine, I've wanted to tell you for a while now. I've had a crush on you ever since you were a child." Oh my God. I felt sick. Was she insane? Then she kept talking. She said, "Ever since I married your dad, I've only had eyes for you, but I had to wait until you turned 18 before I could confess. It feels so good to finally tell you it's you I love, not your dad." I thought I was going to puke. And then I said, "Are you nuts? You're my stepmom. You're a freak." By then I was really shouting, and Harold came running through and said, "Babe, is everything okay?" I told him everything was fine, but that I wanted to go over to his place instead, so that we could be alone for reals. I could tell from the look on Stephanie's face that she was jealous of Harold, and ever since she'd confessed, I made sure to stay out of her way. She made me so uncomfortable, but she wouldn't leave me alone. One night, I was chilling with my friends in my room, and she came in wearing this see-through nightgown, and she was carrying a plate of cookies. I thought she'd just leave them with us, then go, but she sat next to me and kept hugging me. It was torture. Eventually, she left, and I felt so sick. When would this end, I thought. Summer vacation came, and we headed to the beach. Harold was also there with my family, and he decided to teach me how to surf. I was actually pretty good at it, but then I slipped and the waves were so big. I started screaming for help, and Harold finally saved me. He carried me back to the beach, and when I opened my eyes, we were just staring at each other, and it was so romantic. But suddenly, Harold went flying. Stephanie had pushed him aside and leapt in to give me CPR. And I'm not joking, she started kissing me. She knew I was fine, but she kept pretending to give me CPR just so she could kiss me. The worst part is that everyone thought she'd saved my life. Actually, Harold was the hero, not her. After that, I'd had enough. I couldn't take it any longer. I waited until my dad was sitting alone one night and decided that was the perfect time to reveal Stephanie's true colors. I sat next to him and said, "Dad, I need to tell you something. Stephanie doesn't love you. It's me she loves. We need to get rid of her before she destroys our family." My dad just laughed. He thought I was joking. Then he said, "Oh, sweetie, come on. She loves us both. Don't worry. Of course she loves me." Ugh, why didn't he believe me? After that, I felt annoyed, so I asked Harold to come over and keep me company. We were in my room doing homework with the door closed, when suddenly my dad barged in. He started shouting at Harold, saying, "Stay away from my daughter, do you hear me?" I asked my dad what was going on, and he said that Stephanie told him Harold was trying to have his way with me. I couldn't believe it. I told my dad we were just studying, but he made Harold leave and said, "If you ever come near my daughter again, you'll have me to answer to. You got that?" Oh my God! Stephanie was the absolute worst. How could she sink this low? She was now evil, like properly evil. I went straight to find her and said, "How could you do this to me? You know Harold is my boyfriend. Stop being so obsessed with me and let me live my life." She just laughed and denied it, saying I was acting crazy. Then just as I was about to leave, she said, "I want you all to myself. So anytime you have a boyfriend, I'll tell your dad he's bad news, and you know your dad will always believe everything I say. I'm doing this because I love you, Francine." I was about to freak out at her when suddenly a plate smashed right behind us. I turned around, and my dad was standing there with tears in his eyes. He was shaking and told Stephanie to get out of his sight and to never come back. I was relieved she was gone, but my dad was miserable. It reminded me of how he'd been when Mom had died, and I couldn't bear it. After hours of watching him lying in bed crying, I realized I had to do something. I had to find Stephanie. It took me about 6 hours, but I didn't give up until I found her. She was sitting on a bench crying, and I sat down next to her. She obviously wasn't expecting to see me, and started apologizing, saying she didn't mean to cause so much trouble. I said to her, "If you really love me, then you'll go make up with my dad and be a perfect family for me." She agreed, and we walked back to the house together. My dad wasn't happy to see her, but she begged him to give her another chance. Luckily, my dad isn't a heartless guy, and so he forgave her. They even apologized to Harold for the misunderstanding, and now we're a happy family. Stephanie is having therapy, and now she treats me like her daughter again, instead of her crush. I know we'll get through this, and she'll get back to being the Stephanie I knew and loved as a kid.